So I'm going to give it my best try to talk Chris back from the ledge. I can deal with his weird titles that don't make any sense logically, like the claims, like they're inconsequential, like they don't even have anything to do with reality or anything that matters regarding theology. So, for instance, Ellen White attempts to change the calendar of God. Okay. Ellen White didn't reckon Miller's time. Miller did. They followed Miller. She was she was 17. Ellen White and the early Adventist pioneers, the doctrine developed. Nobody denies that. That's not a problem. That's a good thing. No one's see. You're operating from this idea that Ellen White was like Mary Baker Eddy, and everybody was just receiving her information like she's like this guru. It doesn't. This has nothing to do with reality. Okay. She was not the like guru of the Adventist church. They were just Christians who were re-looking at doctrine. And as far as the dating goes and what they dated, Ellen White tried to change the calendar. What do you care? Do you keep the feast? Do you think there's still we have to keep the feast or it's a sin? Is what matters is the year, because we count years, a day for a year principle. People defend the dating. I don't even know why it matters. It has nothing to do with proving anything. Because what matters is 2,300 years from 457. Because that's consistent. Because all the dates derived from times in the book of Daniel are years. It's consistent. Okay. Adventist church didn't change Daniel 8 to fit their doctrine. They believed that's how to interpret Daniel 8 years. They received that and believed that. Miller's predictions were wrong, obviously. No one's defending Miller's prediction. They're defending the hermeneutical principle of a day for a year, which has been a staple in Christian history. Okay? I've shared this before. Somebody did a survey of commentators on Daniel 8:13 from the 300s AD to pre that phase of the Great Awakening in America, and during the Great Awakening. So before the Great Awakening, before Miller even theorized his theory, and from 300 AD till just before Miller, so there's no Millerites counted. He surveyed 66 commentators on Daniel 8:13. Of those 66, 35 of them commented on their interpretation on the evening and mornings, 2,300 evenings and mornings. Out of 35 that commentated on it, 21 of them said it was a day for a year. And like 5 said they were literal days, and a couple said it was 1150 literal days. 1150 is demonstrably false. It still can't make you force fit Antiochus to work. According to the book of Maccabees, doesn't fit, doesn't work. Whether you use a false calendar that they didn't use, which is 360 days in a year, which is what people do to try to make it fit, which isn't even the calendar they used, because never has a Jewish year had 360 days in it. So if you are a preterist or a futurist, the Jewish calendar never had 360 days in it, which is what the rendering in the text is. So you got a problem to begin with right there. That should be a clue. Okay. So, but regarding what the Jewish calendar doesn't line up with our calendar ever. December 25th is not the same day on the Jewish calendar every year. The Day of Atonement is not October 22 ever from year to year. Each year it switches. In fact, it shifts between September and October. Anyway, or whatever it is. I don't even know what for sure. I don't have it in front of me. The point is they don't align because they render the dates, they render the year length differently. Ours is based on a more accurate rendering with the sun, but we still have to add a leap year every 4 years because it's 360. A year is 365.25 days. That's how long it takes to go around the sun. The Jews need to keep in sync with the seasons. So they have 353 or 354, depending on the year and how they adjust in the 7th and 8th month. And so they're short like about 11 days on average on a 12-month year. Every third year, and a little more often, every 7 out of 19, they add a 13th month, which adds 30 days to the year and puts them about 18 days, give or take a day, depending on how they adjust the 7th and 8th month or the 8th and 9th month, which can have one more in one of the months and one day less in one of the months. But the year with an added month always has 30 added days to that month. It's a 30-day month when they do that. Second Adar or whatever. Those have 383 or 384 days in them. So they're constantly fluctuating above and below the amount of days in a year that we have. That makes it shift up to 18 or 11 days off from year to year. If you put a pin in our calendar regarding how the days, how much farther the next year a day can be different from our calendar as it was the previous year. So I personally don't have any confidence in what day that they had chosen, but it's inconsequential. The day is inconsequential to the theology. It's the year that matters. The year that the Day of Atonement would signify the year they thought Jesus would return. That was a false interpretation. No one's defending that interpretation. It's readily and acknowledged as a false prediction. So Ellen White didn't get the date and give it to the church. It's inconsequential anyway. She received it. They developed their doctrine. Yes, they changed their minds about stuff. That's a good thing, Chris. You're obsessed. You're not, it's not healthy for you. Move on. You're not doing any damage except for the minds of the people that listen to you because you don't know what you're talking about. You're like a poison well, poisoning others and yourself.
Basically, I guess he's the one who helped it gives, I guess.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Keep looking, Chris. You don't even stop to realize that what you're talking about doesn't even matter. It's like I'm the gumshoe that's gonna bring it down. None of this stuff matters at all. You like, the AI told me. The AI told me. Yeah, it's probably Satan. You don't even know how to do research, Chris. I don't even know how to do research, but I know how to do it better than you. You don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess this other guy his name was Snow, who was telling him, hey, I got word from this guy that this is actually the correct date, and he's a so-called Karaite Jew or Karaite Jew, right? And that's who E.S. Kalman is. And he's like, well, we keep the calendar differently in our city. I ought to pull this up, man.
Chris, what do you think? Let's say you prove that they have the date wrong. What do you think that meant? What do you think that means? What do you think that? What are the consequences of what day they thought the Day of Atonement was in 1844? We already know that the predicting of Jesus coming back in 1844 was false. Nobody pretends like that's not true. Like, what do you think? What do you think? Like, you know, they didn't have the internet in 1800s, right? That they didn't have access to information in the 1800s. So, what are you suggesting? Like, somebody gave them bad information. Let's say that's true. What does it matter? Oh, do you think they made it up, or what are you saying? Like, what is your point? They would take it. Miller did as best as he could, of course. I don't know all the details about how they came to the date they did. What does it matter? Why do you care? It doesn't falsify the beliefs of the SDA Church, even if that is the case. Because God set it up so we could count years, despite calendar problems and differences. I know this: you'll never prove for certain the dates. You can't, because we don't know for sure how they reckoned it. That's acknowledged by scholarship. I mean, people have their theories and their ideas, but you can't prove it. And what are the consequences? There are none. There are none, unless somebody thinks they need to know those dates. But it's really until we find more information, you can't really. There's no smoking gun. People try to put it together, but none of it really. It could falsify certain views if you could prove it, but you can't prove it. You haven't proved it. Anything. And the funny thing is, what are the real issues here? Oh, so Daniel 8 and Daniel 11 are fulfilled by Antiochus. Okay, then you're a heretic. You believe in the sense that you believe, because that makes you have to interpret Daniel 12:1 as already occurring. And by the way, if Antiochus fulfills Daniel 11, which is attached to Daniel 12, how is that resurrection happening before Jesus is born? You would have to tie the abomination of desolation to the 70 AD temple in Jesus' time, because you have to make Jesus' words about the abomination of desolation being future happen in the temple of God, happen in 70 AD after he ascends. But that's not what you're saying. You're claiming Daniel 11 and Daniel 12 are associated with Antiochus, which is tied to the resurrection from the dead in the time of trouble. That has to be 70 AD, or you're denying Jesus' straightforward words. You don't even understand this. You don't even get that. Because when you first tried to say this about Daniel 11, you didn't even know what you're talking about. You didn't even know that it was how it attached to Daniel 12. Why are you acting like you know what you're talking about? Why? Because you're obsessed and you're out of your league.
Because I got this letter right here, which I copied it. Let's see here. But anyway, so